Hi, Drawing 2 students. So today we are going to start our studies of understanding and creating the illusion of extreme depth within pictures. We touched on this a little in Drawing 1, but now we're going to try and take it a little bit further and develop your understanding more. So we're going to work specifically on linear perspective today, and we'll get into atmospheric perspective a little later. So linear perspective is what you're seeing up here. It is the illusion of depth created with a horizon line that's very distinguished and 1, 2, 3, or maybe 4 vanishing points. Atmospheric perspective is when you see the atmosphere changing the illusion of depth that you see in space. So our basics of linear perspective. Now, if you had middle school art and basic art or beginning drawing at Farnsworth, I'm guessing you understand single 1-point perspective with a vanishing point and a horizon line. This is the trick we use to make a cube. So if you're facing the front of any object, you're getting or you're showing 1-point perspective. If you are facing the corner of an object or looking at the corner, then you're creating 2-point perspective, and there's 2 vanishing points that things are receding off to. And if you're looking down at an object from the corner or up at an object from the corner, then what you're looking at is 3-point perspective. So there are these different types. We're going to focus on 2-point perspective and 3-point perspective. If this stuff is familiar for you, then great. You are really just getting a little review. So again, this is how it looks in drawing. So 1-point perspective is here, 2-point perspective here, and 3-point here. And the third vanishing point can be below the line or above the line. So 1-point perspective looks pretty stiff in most drawings. You're looking straight on at one perfectly square wall or straight on at one distant space with receding lines on either side that are basically equal. Here's a little more complex variation of it, like a school hallway. 2-point perspective. You're looking at a corner. These drawings tend to be a lot more dynamic and there's a little more happening in them. So this is what we're going to try to start with. So you have 2 sides receding back in the distance. 2-point perspective interiors. Usually you're looking at the corner of a room way in the back. And 2-point perspective buildings or architecture, you're starting from viewing the corner. So here's a drawing that shows you a 2-point perspective view of a set of buildings. So this is how you draw in 2-point perspective. If this is new to you, then I want you to practice and copy this example into your sketchbook. You can use a ruler to make the horizontal line, or you can just use any other straight edge of a paper as a ruler and kind of guess. You don't actually have to measure, you just need a guide to make a straight line. So keep that in mind. So after you make your vertical line or your horizontal line, this is called your horizon line. Your horizon line is the eye level that the viewer sees your work or sees your environment that you're creating. And then you're going to create 2 vanishing points. You could put little dots on the line, or some people just always go to the edge of the paper and they call those the vanishing points. You can do it either way. And then your next step is to create a vertical line somewhere to indicate the corner of the object you're about to draw. And then you connect the top and the bottom of that vertical line back to both vanishing points. And then you establish the sides. So you create another vertical line and you decide how wide you want the side of the building to be. So you put that second vertical in and the third vertical in, and that creates the other side. And then you create the top. So all lines in 2-point perspective are either vertical or receding back to one of the 2 vanishing points. So this line has to be connected back to the second vanishing point because the top of it recedes this way. And then this point has to recede that way. So you can see the top of the object. Should make sense. Pause the video whatever you need to make the drawing so you understand it. Second 2-point perspective drawing. Now, if the object is on your eye level, meaning you can't see the top, you can't see the bottom. Then you do the same thing. You start with the vertical. You create lines that go back to each vanishing point on the left and on the right. And then you create 2 more vertical lines. Now, all of the extra lines here, these other receding lines, they could be erased. The third exercise is above the horizon line, right? So we're getting a vertical line here. You're connecting both sides back to the vanishing point, right? And then just like we did on the bottom, you're going to create 2 more vertical lines. Be careful that these do not tilt. They are perfectly straight or vertical. You can reference the side of your page to make sure that they're straight. And then you're going to crisscross on the bottom. So this point has to connect back to the second vanishing point, and the other one connects back to the other side. So there we have it, 2-point perspective. Now, your eye level is an important thing to consider. So your horizon line, the line where you say the land and the sky meet, determines whether you're looking down at an object or up. So here's the horizon line. Anything below the horizon line, you're going to be able to see the top of. Anything above the horizon line, like this object, you can always see the bottom. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, one artist that played with us a lot made things a little confusing for people, and this was part of the appeal of his work, is MC Escher. I'll show you a few more of these in a minute. 3-point perspective. Now, a 3-point perspective is super fun if you understand the basic principles. You have 3 vanishing points, and you can number them however you want, 1, 2, 3. And all the lines in your drawing are going to go to one of these 3 points. Instead of making vertical lines, your corners are going to come from the 3rd vanishing point. So this idea can be shown, usually pieces that are really dramatic and dynamic, like comic book scenes. Spider-Man's climbing the side of a building. Usually 3-point perspective is involved in that. So how to draw a 3-point perspective. Again, if you've never done this, use your sketchbook and copy this example. You start by creating the corner of the object first. So I'm using the 3rd vanishing point, and I set it up the exact same way. A horizon line, 1 vanishing point, 2 vanishing point, and then the 3rd line coming straight down. And then I determine what segment of it I want to use as my corner. So I'm not going to use the whole thing. I'm just going to use this portion down here. And I connect the sides back to both vanishing points on the right and left. Now I have to create the sides of my structure. So I'm going to put another vanishing point on each side. So here's where the structure ends, over here and here, and I'm just deciding where I want it to go. As long as the lines come from this vanishing point, you're all good. You can put them wherever you want. So that is one example. If I take those lines out, you can see it a little better. Now if I'm drawing below the vanishing point, or below the horizon line, I again start by drawing the corner. So I made this section a little darker so you can see it. And I connect both sides back to the vanishing point 1 and 2. And now I create the sides by drawing a 3rd and 4th lines coming from this top vanishing point. And then where this receding line meets, I need to make my next line cross over to the other side. So you're still doing the same thing you were doing in 2-point perspective. It's just that now you don't have any vertical lines. Everything goes to that 3rd vanishing point. Same thing if you're drawing above the horizon line. Use the right and left vanishing points, and then use the top vanishing point to create those sides, and then you crisscross on the bottom. There you go. So if this is familiar for you, ladies and gentlemen, then the next few things will make sense. Making those boxes a little darker. So MC Escher was a master of doing this, and he created these really dramatic illusions of space. If you need an artist to aspire to reference, M.C. Escher is definitely a good one. A lot of his work is very linear anyway. He uses a lot of hatching and cross-hatching, but he definitely took advantage of 2-point and 3-point perspective in extreme ways to make really interesting and complex drawings. So I want you to do a little more practice. So go to the next assignment in Schoology and you can follow the steps there.